meantime, and now to something else that is going to make you sick and make you wonder whether any of this is going to fly, because the spin is in, and those dismal Obamacare enrollment numbers, well, they're not really all that dismal. Because to hear the administration tell it, that they all but expected it. In fact, they're better than their awful expectations. To Fox Business Network's Lauren Simonetti on making lemonade out of, I guess, fewer lemons. I can't figure this out.
Well, Neil, the release date is Friday. Then we'll see those lemons indeed. And that's when the Obama administration tells us how many people signed up for private health insurance on healthcare.gov. And we want to know how it's actually defining what an Obamacare enrollee is. Is it someone who signed up for a plan, but that plan is just sitting in their online shopping cart? Or is it someone who actually paid for that plan? The Washington Post says the answer is both. And the reason is that the online shopping cart only has space for one health plan, meaning the customer must have gotten far enough through the system, and payments aren't due until December 15th anyway. But as every shopper knows, just because you put something in your cart doesn't mean you're buying it. Now, traditional health insurance only considers subscribers enrolled when they've paid. So the disparity in the numbers is only going to fuel the flames over the success or failure of Obamacare. Yesterday, the Wall Street Journal reported that no more than 50,000 people signed up for private plans through the 36 exchanges run by the federal government. That's a far cry from the 500,000 expected, Neil.
You know what's amazing about this? They came in originally with such high expectations, making everybody, if you like your doctor, keep your doctor, everything will be great. I think they should have lowballed it coming in. They should have said all the things about it coming in, sort of like I did with my mom and dad. I'm going to get all D's and F's. If I got a C, they thought I was men's material.
Good job.
They didn't do that, did they? They did not do that.
No.
All right, Lauren Simonetti, thank you very, very much. All right, so put another way to explain this. You surf, you're a sale. You get on the healthcare site, you're a healthcare customer. Now, former Heinz CEO Bill Johnson says if any business counted its sales that way, well, it would be out of business. It's pretty creative math, isn't it?
It is. The SEC would put any public company right out of business. Your accountants would wonder what you're doing wrong. So think of it this way, Neil. Next time you go and test drive a car, that's a sale. Next time you go to an airline website and look for a ticket, that's a sale.
So they are literally saying you get on the computer and try to get into this. You are an active customer. They've hooked you.
As best we can tell, it's really hard to tell much of anything because they haven't been very forthcoming with the numbers.
But think of that, Bill. If that's what they're saying as a sale or as a customer, and you and I know that certainly the percentages don't favor that, then the anemic numbers they have are even more anemic.
Absolutely. And I think everything's being spun. We've seen it. I mean, I think it's a disaster. And I think if somebody would be frontal about it and say it's been a disaster, but we're going to fix it, I think people might be a little more forgiving. But I think the spin is just creating a bigger and bigger hole from which they have to climb out of.
You know, I was thinking of you and, days at Heinz and running things. And I'm sure now and then you'd have some bad product launches. I don't know, that maybe the jalapeno ketchup thing didn't take off.
How about green ketchup?
Green ketchup didn't take off. But you, at what point do you have to tell your customers or your planning team, guys, is saying cutting it, and then get in front of it? Because we're not at that point here.
Well, I think you have to do it sooner rather than later, and that is to minimize the damage you do, both financially and reputationally.
Is it too late?
It may be too late, and I think it wouldn't be too late if they were out telling people the truth, that you can't keep your doctor. I misspoke. That's what they call it. And you can't get on the website.
What do you think of that? Do you think he misspoke, or do you think he was out of the loop, didn't know? I mean, when you had underlings at Heinz, were they afraid to address you and say, gee, Bill, we can't tell the big guy that it's not going to pan out, so they'd not even address it with you?
No, somebody had to tell you. Because if the board asked or the shareholders asked, you couldn't say, I don't know, because then you look like not only you're out of the loop, but you're ignorant of the entire process, so who's in charge? And if you're not in charge, who is in charge? So no. I don't know what's going on in terms of whether he knew or didn't know. I can tell you he should have known.
All right. What we do know now is that you can't count customers the way they're counting them, just like you can't count sales the way they're counting them. So methinks when you launch something with specious math, everything else could be specious, right?
Yeah, I think credibility is at risk here. I think all sorts of credulity has to be checked, because if these numbers aren't right, if they're not telling us the truth in this, what else aren't they telling us the truth about? And so I think in the context of this, you're better always just being forthcoming, coming clean with it, saying it didn't go as we planned. You can't keep your doctor, or you can. They're going to maybe change this. I saw ex-President Clinton today talking about this very issue.
Right.
It's going to get very
Well, maybe
interesting.
they're concerned it gets worse before it gets better. A year from now, you know, the employer mandate kicks in. There's a lot of talk that a lot of employers, big, you know, Fortune 1000 employers, and from everyone on down, they're going to realize, hey, we can't keep this plan going, so we're going to have to cut these people off, let them loose either the IBM way into private exchanges or public exchange on the part of other companies. But they're not going to have the plans they do now.
No, and I think most employers recognize that. So you're either going to see a cut in employment.
They do. You think,
you think
so?
Absolutely. And I think most are planning, and I think they got a break on the mandate. I think the reason the mandate was put off was because I think there was big concern about what would happen to employment and what would happen to part-time work. And as it is, you got almost 14.5–15% of the population that's either unemployed or underemployed. That number will go up when Obamacare hits and the mandate's forced.
Isn't that ironic that this idea that we were going to provide insurance for those that didn't have insurance, since the laws become law, we have 4 million fewer people with insurance. Not more with insurance, 4 million fewer.
But it's not surprising, Neil. I mean, these are the kinds of things that happen when you rush into things and you don't plan and you're not forthcoming in terms of what's really going on. You know, I've said many times, we had systems projects, I delayed them. You saw Boeing delay their big plane.
Yes.
If it's not working, you simply have to say it's not working, it's not where we want. I think people overcome that. And I think apologizing for it at the beginning, as opposed to being forced to apologize for it later.
I think it's too late now.
Well, I do too. I do too. And I'm worried that the whole system collapses under its own weight.
Bill Johnson, thank you very much. The former Heinz CEO, one of the best and most highly regarded executives of the last few decades. Meanwhile, if the White House can't get this rollout going, time for the tax man to get going, why Art Laffer is very, very worried.